Hi, I'm Lara. I'll tell my story. I can still hear their voices, even when the house is quiet. My father's words don't just fade away, they stick to me like glue, replaying in my head long after he's stopped speaking. Lara, your singing dreams are a waste of time. Success doesn't come from fantasies. He always delivered the line with the same certainty, as if the universe had given him authority over my destiny. To him, music was nothing more than noise, a distraction. Something fragile that could never put food on the table. My mother's tone was different, softer, almost tender, but the weight of her words wasn't any lighter. She'd place her hand on my shoulder and look at me with those worried eyes, as if I was walking toward a cliff. Sweetheart, be realistic. People like us don't make a living singing. Think about college. Think about a career you can rely on. Music won't save you. Those sentences became the soundtrack of my childhood. Every lecture, every sigh, every disappointed look, it all blended into one long song of doubt. Sometimes I wonder if they ever realized how much it hurt. Probably not. They thought they were protecting me from disappointment, but all they did was build a wall between us. I never shouted back. I never said what I really wanted to say. Instead, I'd nod, lower my eyes, and slip away to my room. There, behind the door, I could finally breathe. My guitar leaned against the corner like an old friend, the wood scratched and worn, but its sound felt like freedom. I'd strum quietly, whispering lyrics I scribbled in the margins of my school notebooks. Words about pain, hope, and the life I wanted but couldn't reach. Music was my diary. Every chord carried the weight of things I couldn't tell anyone. The nights were the worst, when the house was still, when my parents' voices turned into ghosts, echoing in my head. That was when I'd sing. Music was my diary. Every chord carried the weight of things I couldn't tell anyone. The nights were the worst, when the house was still, when my parents' voices turned into ghosts echoing in my head. That was when I'd sing the loudest, even if no one could hear me. I always knew my parents came from struggle. My dad worked construction. My mom cleaned houses. They fought for every dollar, every meal, every bill. I understand why stability mattered so much to them. But why couldn't they see that music wasn't just a dream for me? It was the only place I felt like myself. Their words left scars, invisible but deep. Still, those scars carried a strange kind of energy. I turned their rejection into fuel, their doubts into sparks. Each time they told me I'd fail, I felt something rise inside me. Call it stubbornness, call it revenge. It wasn't about hurting them. It was about proving them wrong, about showing them and the world that the thing they dismissed as foolish was the very thing that would lift me up. I used to imagine it at night, me standing on a stage, lights flooding the space, the crowd shouting my name. My parents would be somewhere in the audience, silent for once, maybe even proud. That image became my secret motivation, my hidden star. So I lived two lives. The one they saw, quiet, obedient, realistic, and the one they didn't, the girl who stayed awake writing lyrics until her fingers cramped, who sang to the four walls of her room as if they were an arena filled with thousands of people. One day, I promised myself the world would know my name. I didn't know how, I didn't know when, but I knew that if I kept the fire alive, if I protected it from their doubts, I'd get there. Scars to stars, that's the phrase I hold on to. Every painful word, every dismissal, every "you can't" They're scars etched into me, but they're also the reason I shine brighter when I imagine what's ahead. For now, my dream is still small, fragile, hidden like a flame in my chest. But it's burning, and no matter how much they try to smother it, I won't let it go out. Dreams are quiet things, at least at the beginning. Mine lived in the shadows of my room, tucked away between scribbled lyrics and late-night melodies no one else heard. I was too afraid to share them, too afraid of the laughter or the disappointment I knew would follow. But sometimes silence is heavier than words. I needed someone to hear me, even if it wasn't my parents. That's why I started recording little clips on my phone. Nothing fancy, just me, my old guitar, and the crackle of bad audio. I uploaded the first one to the internet with shaking hands, convinced no one would ever find it. A few days later, someone did. I'll never forget the first comment. "Your voice is beautiful. Don't stop." I stared at those words for hours. It felt unreal. Someone I didn't know had heard me, and instead of doubt, they gave me encouragement. For the first time, my dream wasn't just mine. It had leaked into the world, even if only through a tiny screen. I started posting more, covers of songs I loved, little snippets of original lines I was too shy to call songs. Every like, every small message became a piece of motivation. They were proof that maybe I wasn't crazy for wanting this. Maybe there was something in my voice worth sharing. Of course, I kept it a secret. My parents thought I was studying when I locked myself in my room for hours. They didn't know that I was balancing homework with editing videos, trying to make my voice just a little clearer, my performance a little stronger. The internet became my hidden stage, my silent rebellion. One of my friends, Maya, eventually found my channel. I expected her to laugh, to tease me, but instead she showed up at school with her phone in hand, grinning. "Lara, you're really good, like seriously good." Her words lit something in me I didn't even know was missing: belief. Not just my own fragile belief, but someone else's. It made me braver. Still, fear never completely disappeared. Every time I hit upload, I thought of my father's voice. Singing is a waste of time. I imagined my mom's disappointed sigh. Their doubt clung to me like chains. But those small online voices, the ones that said, "Don't stop," the ones that called me amazing, were the keys I held in my pocket. Late at night, I'd put on my headphones and scroll through the comments. Some were simple, "Nice voice," or "I like this song." But others went deeper. "This helped me through a rough day," or "Your voice is calming." Those messages mattered more than my parents' rules, more than their plans for me. They reminded me why I was doing this. Music wasn't just about me. It was about connection, about reaching someone I'd never meet and making them feel less alone. I began to dream bigger. I imagined singing on an actual stage, not just into my phone's microphone. I imagined an audience that clapped, not a family that shook their heads. I imagined a life where my passion wasn't something I had to hide. But the more I dreamed, the more dangerous it felt. I knew if my parents discovered what I was doing, there would be consequences. They'd probably forbid me from singing altogether, maybe even take my guitar away. So I kept my secret. I lived my normal life during the day: homework, chores, quiet obedience. And at night, I lived my real life, singing softly into the dark, uploading my voice into the world like whispers carried by the wind. Silent dreams, maybe, but dreams don't stay silent forever. Somewhere deep inside, I could feel it. This was only the beginning. Secrets never last forever. Mine certainly didn't. It happened on a Sunday afternoon when I thought my parents were too busy arguing about bills to care what I was doing. I had just uploaded a new video, an original song this time. My voice trembled at first, but I poured everything into it. The frustration, the loneliness, the quiet fire that lived inside me. When I finished, I felt proud in a way I rarely did. For a moment, it felt like maybe I was becoming the person I wanted to be. Then the door slammed open. My father stood there, holding my phone in his hand. He'd gone through it while I was in the bathroom. My heart dropped so fast, I thought it might never climb back up. "What is this, Lara?" His voice was low, dangerous. "Videos of you singing? For strangers? What nonsense is this?" I couldn't speak. My throat was dry, my hands cold. He shoved the phone toward me, as if the screen itself was proof of my failure. My mother appeared behind him, her face pale with. "Sweetheart," she said softly, "tell me this isn't real." But it was real. And worse, people had commented, liked, and shared. To me, it was validation. To them, it was humiliation. My father's anger boiled over. "You think this is a career? You think this is success? This is nothing but embarrassment. Delete it, all of it, right now." Something inside me cracked. For the first time, I felt the urge to fight back. But fear held me still. My voice, so strong when I sang, felt useless when I needed it most. I whispered, "No." His eyes widened. "What did you say?" "No," I repeated, louder this time. My whole body shook, but I didn't back down. "I won't delete it." The silence that followed was heavier than his shouting had ever been. My mother covered her mouth with her hand, as if I had just cursed at them. My father's face turned red, but instead of yelling, he turned away. "You'll regret this," he said, walking out of the room. That night, I cried harder than I had in years, not because I wanted to delete my videos, but because for the first time, I realized how much they truly didn't believe in me. It wasn't just doubt. It was a wall, thick and unmovable, standing between me and them. I kept posting anyway, quietly, carefully. Every upload felt like a risk, but also like a small act of rebellion. My audience was still tiny, but it grew. Strangers kept writing to me, "Don't give up. Your voice matters. Keep going." Their encouragement became the bricks I used to climb over the walls of doubt my family had built around me. Still, the pain lingered. At dinner, my father barely looked at me. My mother sighed every time I picked up my guitar. Home felt less like a home and more like a battlefield, where no one raised weapons, but everyone carried wounds. And yet, every time I thought about quitting, I remembered the feeling of that first comment, that first moment of being heard. It was small, but it was. I told myself something simple. If my own family couldn't believe in me, I'd learn to believe in myself. It wasn't easy. Sometimes their words still crawled back into my head late at night, whispering that I was wasting my life. But I countered those whispers with a louder truth. Music was my oxygen. Without it, I'd suffocate. I knew then that this wasn't just a dream. It was a fight, and I wasn't planning on losing. The first time I stepped onto a stage, it wasn't the kind of stage I used to dream about. There were no spotlights, no screaming fans, no glitter falling from the ceiling. Just a tiny cafe in Jersey City with mismatched chairs, the smell of burnt coffee, and maybe 12 people scattered across the room. But for me, it was everything. It started with Maya. She was the only one at school who knew about my secret videos. And she had this way of pushing me when I wanted to stay hidden. "You can't just sing for your bedroom walls forever," she said one afternoon, practically dragging me down the street. "There's an open mic at this cafe tonight. You're D'ing it." I laughed nervously, shaking my head. "Are you crazy? I can't." "Yes, you can." Her eyes narrowed. "You've been hiding long enough, Lara. If you want to chase success, you need to take risks." Those words haunted me for the rest of the day. By the time we got to the cafe, my heart was racing so hard I thought I might faint. When the host called my name, "Next up, Lara Collins," my legs felt like lead. I could hear my dad's voice in my head. "This is a waste of time." My mom's sigh. "Be realistic." The doubts wrapped around me like chains. But then I remembered the comments from strangers online. I remembered the messages that said, "Don't stop." And I thought, if they could believe in me without even knowing me, why couldn't I? So I walked up to the microphone. My hands trembled as I held my guitar. I strummed the first chord, shaky but steady enough, and then I sang. The first note was quiet, almost too soft to hear, but the sound bounced back to me from the walls of the cafe, and something inside me shifted. With every lyric, my voice grew stronger. I closed my eyes and let myself disappear into the music, into the words I had written late at night when no one was listening. When the song ended, there was a second of silence, just a breath, but it felt like forever. Then the room erupted into applause. Not thunderous, not overwhelming. Just a handful of claps, cheers from strangers who didn't know me but still chose to listen. And for me, that was enough. I felt my chest tighten, my eyes sting. It wasn't Madison Square Garden, but it was proof. Proof that I could stand in front of people, open my heart, and not fall apart. Proof that I could take my scars and turn them into something worth sharing. Afterward, a woman came up to me. She couldn't have been older than 30, holding a coffee cup with lipstick stains on the rim. "Your voice," she said, smiling softly. It gave me chills. "Don't stop singing, okay?" Those words hit harder than all of my parents' doubts combined. They lodged themselves into me like a promise. When Maya and I walked out of the cafe that night, the cold air hit my face, but I felt warm from the inside. "See?" she said, grinning ear to ear. "Told you!" I laughed, still shaking, still buzzing from the adrenaline. "That was terrifying." "Terrifying and amazing," she corrected. She was right. That night, lying in bed, I replayed the moment over and over again. Not the fear, not the trembling, but the applause, the smiles, the way my voice didn't break when I thought it would. It wasn't just a small stage. It was the beginning of something bigger. For the first time, I didn't just believe I could dream. I believed I could live it. Something changed after that night at the cafe. It was small, almost invisible to everyone else, but to me, it felt like a spark had finally caught fire. For years, I had been singing in the shadows, whispering my dreams to four walls that never answered back. But the applause, the smiles, that one woman's words, "Don't stop singing," they lit something inside me I couldn't put out. I started writing more. Not just scraps of lyrics in the corners of notebooks, but full songs. They weren't perfect, but they were mine. Every verse carried pieces of my life, the doubt, the loneliness, the quiet strength I was building without even realizing it. One song in particular came pouring out of me late one night. I wrote it with tears streaming down my face, my guitar strings wet beneath my fingers. It was about being underestimated, about standing tall when everyone around you expects you to fall. I recorded it the next morning, barely editing it, my voice raw and trembling, and I uploaded it online. I didn't expect much, but within a week, the video blew up. At first, it was just a few hundred views. Then, thousands. Comments started flooding in. People from all over the world writing things like, "This song feels like my life," and "Your voice is pure motivation." Someone even messaged me saying it helped them through a dark night. I remember staring at my phone screen, unable to breathe. My heart raced, my hands shook, but not from fear this time, from excitement. My words, my pain, had reached someone I had never met, and they cared. They listened. For the first time, I thought, maybe this wasn't just a dream. Maybe it could be real. Of course, at home, things were different. My father still dismissed it all. When he caught me humming in the kitchen, he muttered, "It's just a phase." My mother shook her head when I stayed up late writing songs. "Don't get carried away," she warned. But their doubt didn't crush me anymore. It fueled me. Every dismissive word was like gasoline on the fire growing inside me. The old version of me would have hidden, apologized, shrunk back into silence. But not anymore. Now, I carried their disbelief as proof of why I had to keep going. Still, I didn't tell them about the video's success. That was mine alone, my secret victory. If they knew, they'd probably find a way to tear it down. Instead, I let the motivation live quietly inside me, building strength for the battles ahead. The night the video passed 100,000 views, I sat by my window, staring out at the city lights. I whispered to myself, "This is only the beginning." Because it was. I could feel it in my bones. The fire within me was no longer a fragile flame. It was spreading, burning through the walls of doubt, turning scars into stars. And I wasn't going to let anyone put it out. Success is a strange thing. One moment it lifts you higher than you ever thought you could go. The next, it drops you straight to the ground. When my video blew up, people started suggesting I audition for a national talent competition. At first, I laughed it off. Me? On TV? Impossible. But the comments kept coming, and Maya pushed me harder than ever. "Lara, you have to try," she said, shoving the audition link in front of me. "This is your chance. Don't hide." I signed up with trembling hands. Walking into that audition hall was like stepping into another world. Bright lights, hundreds of hopeful singers, cameras everywhere. My heart thudded so hard I could barely hear my own name when they called me. Next up, Lara Collins. As I walked onto the stage, the judges stared at me with sharp eyes, waiting. My palms were slick with sweat. I gripped the microphone and told myself to breathe. But then, out of nowhere, my father's voice echoed in my head. "This is a waste of time." My mother's sigh followed. "Be realistic." The fire inside me flickered. My throat tightened. When the music started, I opened my mouth, and nothing came out. Just a shaky, broken sound that wasn't me at all. I tried again, but my voice cracked. My hands shook so badly, I almost dropped the microphone. The judges' faces blurred in front of me. The crowd whispered. A sharp wave of panic crashed over me, And all I could think was, they were right. I'm not good enough. I stumbled through the rest of the song, off key and breathless. When it ended, there was no applause, just polite silence and a few murmurs. One of the judges leaned forward, her expression kind but firm. You have potential, she said, but tonight wasn't your night. Her words sliced through me. Potential? That was just another way of saying not ready. I left the stage with my head down, tears stinging my eyes. By the time I got home, the video of my shaky performance was already online. People were laughing, mocking me in the comments. She choked. Overrated. Stick to your bedroom. For days, I couldn't eat, couldn't sing, could barely look at myself in the mirror. My parents didn't even bother to hide their satisfaction. My dad shook his head, muttering, "I told you." My mom just sighed, her silence worse than words. I wanted to disappear, to quit, to erase every video I had ever uploaded. But then something unexpected happened. In the middle of all the cruel comments, there were still voices, familiar names I recognized from my small community of supporters. Ignore the haters. You're still amazing. One bad night doesn't define you. Don't stop, Lara. We believe in you. I read those words over and over late at night when I couldn't sleep. And slowly, something shifted. Maybe the judges were right. It wasn't my night. Maybe I had failed, but failure wasn't the end. Failure was a lesson. One evening, I picked up my guitar again. My fingers trembled. My voice cracked on the first note, but I kept going. The sound was raw, imperfect, but it was mine. I realized I didn't need to be flawless. I just needed to keep singing. That night, I promised myself, this stumble wouldn't define me. I would rise again. Because that's what scars do. They hurt, but they also heal. And if I wanted to turn mine into stars, I couldn't give up now. Finally, I stood on a real stage, bigger than my bedroom, bigger than the tiny cafe where I had first performed. Hundreds of hopeful singers lined up, bright lights flooded the room, and cameras captured every moment. My heart pounded so hard I could barely hear my own thoughts. My hands were slick with sweat, and I gripped my guitar like it was my only anchor in a storm. The music started. My first note cracked. Panic slammed into me like a wave. My father's voice echoed in my head, "You're wasting your time." My mother's sigh followed, soft but cutting. "Be realistic, Lara." My body froze. I tried to keep going, to focus on the lyrics I had poured my soul into. But my fingers fumbled over the chords, my voice shook, and the melody collapsed. The judges' faces blurred. The crowd murmured quietly. I could feel the weight of everyone's eyes, judging, analyzing, silently agreeing that I didn't belong here. When the song ended, there was nothing. Just an uncomfortable silence that felt heavier than any applause I'd ever imagined. One judge leaned forward, her expression kind but firm. You have potential, but tonight wasn't your night. Potential. A polite word for failure. My chest tightened. I left the stage with trembling legs and a heavy heart, knowing the audition video would soon be online. And it was. The comments poured in, sharp and mocking. She choked. Overrated. Stick to her bedroom. Home offered no comfort. My father shook his head, muttering, "I told you." My mother sighed, her silence louder than any words. I wanted to disappear, to quit, to erase every note I had ever sung. And then there were the others, the people who believed in me. Comments from strangers, fans I didn't know. One night doesn't define you. Keep going, you're still amazing. We believe in you. Their words reached me in the quiet of my room, a lifeline I clung to. I picked up my guitar again. My fingers trembled, my voice cracked, but I sang, not for judges, not for my parents, not for the world, for me. Each note reminded me of the fire I had carried for years, the fire that no failure could extinguish. I realized then that success isn't linear. Falling isn't shameful, it's necessary. What matters is what you do after the fall. I promised myself, with every chord and every trembling lyric, I wouldn't quit. I would rise. My scars would become stars. And one day, the world would see that nothing, not doubt, ridicule, or fear, could stop me. I couldn't stop thinking about that audition, the way my voice had cracked, the silence afterward, the online mockery. Every time I closed my eyes, I could hear my father's voice. I told you so. But instead of breaking me, it lit a fire I couldn't ignore. This time, I wasn't just singing for me. I was singing for every person who had doubted me. Weeks later, I got another chance. A regional competition with a live audience, judges, and cameras. My hands shook as I signed up. The same fear clawed at my chest, but now it mingled with determination. I had practiced relentlessly, pouring every failure, every insult, every tear into my songs. When I stepped onto that stage, the lights blinding, the crowd buzzing, I took a deep breath. This was my moment. I strummed the first chord and let my voice flow. Not perfect, not rehearsed, but raw and real. Every note carried years of doubt and every scar I had survived. The audience went silent, hanging on every word. By the final chorus, people were on their feet. My heart raced as applause erupted, louder than anything I had ever imagined. I caught a glimpse of my name on the scoreboard. First place. In that instant, I felt it. Revenge, not in anger, but in triumph. Every doubt, every discouraging word from my parents, every mocking comment online had fueled this moment. I had turned their disbelief into my success. Backstage, I smiled through tears. I had proven to myself that nothing could stop me. This was just the beginning. My scars had become stars. Standing on that stage, I finally felt what it meant to be seen. Not just heard, but truly seen. Years of doubt, every harsh word from my parents, every night I had cried alone over my dreams, it all led to this moment. The arena was packed, lights shining down, thousands of eyes on me. And for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I took a deep breath, picked up my guitar, and started to sing. My voice rang clear and confident, carrying the stories of my scars and my perseverance. Every note was a reminder of the girl I had been. The crowd erupted, cheering, clapping, some even crying. I felt a rush of emotion so powerful it almost knocked me off balance. I glanced toward the VIP section, and for a fleeting moment, I saw my parents. Their faces were unreadable, a mix of surprise, disbelief, and maybe even pride. I didn't need their approval anymore, but part of me hoped they understood finally. This wasn't just success, it was revenge, not born from anger or hate, but from determination. All the years of being underestimated, of being told I couldn't, of being made to feel small, had fueled me. Every scar became a star, every doubt a stepping stone. I had taken the pain and transformed it into something beautiful, something undeniable. For the first time in my life, I felt completely whole. I had faced my fears, endured the doubts, and emerged stronger than I ever imagined. My journey wasn't over. There were more songs to write, more stages to conquer. But this moment, right now, was mine. I smiled, feeling the warmth of the crowd's energy like sunlight on my skin. Scars to stars. Every single one had led me here. And for the first time, I knew without a doubt, I was unstoppable.